Upon a situation.
Okay, I'm recording.
Okay.
Everybody,
Yes.
I was talking about your dating experience.
Because if you remember.
Okay, thank you. Do you mind? I'm taking all.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, am I in the?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, welcome everybody. Baruch Hashem, tonight is our kickoff for our yearly life skill series. So this is one of the big favorites. This is the series where we integrate the living aspect of living Chassidus. This is where we bring speakers that give us life skills, and we are able to get into life and not have to say, I wish somebody would have told me. So we discuss all kinds of topics from women's health, pregnancy, to postpartum. We discuss finances. We discuss all kinds of wonderful topics, and this is our kickoff. So I'm very excited to start a whole new series with everybody. I also want to thank all of our Chai Club members, everybody that gives a monthly donation to Living Chassidus that makes all of this happen. Yay! Shout out to all of you. If you'd like to join Chai Club, it's very easy and simple. You choose a certain amount, you put it into our website and select make monthly donation, and it just does it monthly every time that day of the month reaches. So it's really easy and simple to support Living Chassidus, and we're so grateful for everyone who does. We're also very grateful for the people that speak for us, because you guys are the ones that make this information be able to be spread and this information be able to be shared with all kinds of people. There's talks from on our YouTube channel, on our playlist called Life Skill Series, from all the previous years. So you guys can go and learn and re-listen and learn again and enjoy it again, and then reach a new level in life and say, wow, Living Chassidus has me covered even in that stage. So yes, thank you very, very much. Tonight we have the great zchus of discussing surviving cold and flu season with natural health strategies. And as I'm sure you guys know, I'm all into natural health, and we're so lucky to have met Dr. Ivy Branin. She's a naturopathic doctor and founder of Simplicity Health Associates. Her degree in naturopathic medicine is from Bastyr University, BA in biochemical engineering from Rutgers University, and not only that, but she's my friend.
Thank you, Michal.
I think that's the greatest introduction. We love her, and we're so lucky to have her again. So pass on the.
Okay, thank you so much for that introduction, Michal. And yes, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I'm looking forward to talking all about what we can be doing to survive the cold and flu season. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. Oh, there we go. So I always like to start all my presentations with just giving you a little bit of background about what naturopathic medicine is, because very often people don't know what that is. So basically, I sum it up as naturopathic medicine being a system of medicine that's very patient specific, which utilizes natural therapies to stimulate the body's own healing potential. And we have 6 governing principles. The first being first do no harm, which is very similar to what all medical practices typically have as one of their governing principles. Prevention is the best medicine, and a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is prevention. So it's not just about when we get a cold or flu, but what can we be doing to prevent colds and flus? The healing power of nature. As naturopaths, we believe that there's this underlying intelligence that when something is kind of going wrong, that we really need to understand what is actually going on, and that there is like a healing potential behind that. Oh, looks like I wrote healing powers nature twice for some reason. Doctor is teacher, so as I'm doing a presentation right now, but also when I'm in my practice with my patients, I really like to educate them on their condition, and then finally treating the whole person. So looking at all aspects of that person. What are they eating? What is their social life like? What are some of their pre-existing family conditions? So really looking at the whole person. Oh, treat the cause. So one of these should be treat the cause. So that's another really important aspect of being a naturopath. Okay, so what are some of our learning objectives tonight? So one, I am going to be talking about some of the basics of how the immune system works. So there is going to be some science, then how we can be creating a healthier immune system through specific lifestyle and dietary changes. What are some of the key immune supportive nutrients? And how do we choose herbs that actually really work? And then lastly, I have a 4-point strategy on how to beat colds and flus fast and naturally. Okay, so what does our immune system do? So basically, our immune system is there. It protects our body from harmful substances. So we often think of bacteria, we think of different pathogens, but it's not just those that can also be causing us to make us sick. But basically, looking at all kinds of different disease-causing pathogens, bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi, also certain substances in the environment can be very harmful, and so we need our immune system there to help protect us. And then lastly, our immune system is there when sometimes our cells can go awry and should be helping to prevent changes that could potentially lead to cancer. So these are some things that our immune system is doing for us. So I want to talk, there's basically 3 main areas of the immune system. I want to first talk about physical barriers. So we can think of this as like the first step in protecting us from pathogens. So all these different, so from the skin, the lining of our intestine, our lungs, all of these are covered in epithelial cells. So these are cells that are basically separating us from the outside world. So could you imagine, like, if we didn't have how much bacteria, viruses, etc., could be coming in? So that's just one of the physical barriers, but also lining our skin, our intestines, our lungs, we actually do have beneficial bacteria. And so these beneficial bacteria also play a role in the physical barriers, in one, that they actually can crowd out harmful bacteria or harmful viruses by not creating space. And then also these bacteria also produce beneficial substances that can either directly kill pathogens or can kind of alert our immune system to do what it needs to do. Other things that our physical barriers also have is different acids. So one, we have stomach acid, and actually stomach acid, besides breaking down food, also protects us from harmful bacteria. We also have acids on our skin, in our saliva. The other thing that with our physical barriers is the movement of fluids. So we think of things like mucus, but also urine, blood, etc. The movement actually prevents bacterial adhesions. One of the, and I'm not going to be talking so much about urinary tract infections, but one of the best things we can do, not just to prevent a urinary tract infection, but even at the earliest signs, is actually drinking lots and lots of water to basically flush out that bacteria to prevent adhesion. So this is some of the physical barriers, and one of probably our most important physical barrier when it comes to cold and flus is actually our nose. So the more that we breathe through our nose, we're really protecting ourselves, because basically everything, all the air that we breathe, it has to go through so much more when it goes through our nose versus going through our mouth. So that's just one easy, I guess, quote unquote, easy strategy. We can even start with making sure that our immune system is working efficiently. So now I'm going to start talking about some of the cells of the immune system. And so it's broken up into 2 different parts. So I'm going to first start talking about the innate immune system. And so innate is basically what we're born with. This immune system, it just will fight anybody. It's not so specific. The main cells of this immune system is the neutrophils. So it makes up about 60% of our innate immune system. And basically it's the neutrophils are kind of like our first line of defense. If things get through the physical barriers, these are the guys that are going to be coming, attacking the bacteria, engulfing them, and they have specific lysozymes to break down the bacteria or the pathogen. Then we have natural killer cells. So natural killer cells, unlike the neutrophils that directly attack the pathogen, the natural killer cells actually attack cells that have been attacked by the pathogen. So they are there to basically kill off or eat up any kind of like diseased cell. The eosinophils, I'm not going to talk so much about those, are much more what we think about when it comes to allergies. They also can be very present with parasite infections. And then last two, so macrophages. So macro meaning big, phage meaning eat. So these are big eating cells that are, attacking different pathogens. And then lastly, so the dendritic cell is very important. And the reason it's very important is it's actually what's bridging the gap between the innate immune system and the next immune system that we're going to be talking about, the adaptive immune system. So we have these dendritic immune cells on our skin, on our digestive tract, et cetera. And what happens is when these cells get in contact with certain pathogens, they actually store information that they're going to pass down to the adaptive immune system. And it's really the adaptive immune system that is going to be creating the most, I guess, like intelligent defense against pathogens. So it's really the dendritic cell that's going to help us get activate and help with the adaptive part. Okay, so now talking about the adaptive immune system. So this is not what we have that potential, I guess you would say, but this isn't what we're born with, but this is more about very much more specific once we've had that initial illness. So it's broken up into two types. You have the B cells and the T cells. So the B cells make up the humoral part of the adaptive immune system. Their role is less about attacking, it's more about like strategy, I guess you would say. And it's really the B cells that are going to be alerting and giving information to the T cells. How does it do it? Through antibodies. And antibodies create the intelligence on the other side of the immune system to really do what it needs to do. Oh.
Did you start talking about how to you're sick?
Oh yeah, sorry, this is background. Sorry, a little bit of background. Yes. I
explain how the body works and then we'll understand how to
right. So basically, so the B cells, have a big role to play in antibody formation. And one of my professors liked to talk about this concept of optimization, where basically the B cells are producing the antibodies, and he would call it bacterial barbecue sauce because it makes them more tasty to the T cells. So and with the T cells, there's a couple. There's many different types, but the most important ones are the T helpers, and they are the ones that are going to be kind of like orchestrating the T killer cells, which I think you can probably understand what the T killer cells do. So this is just a big overview of the immune system and how it works.
So you might ask a question?
Oh yeah, sure.
So the B cells they receive from the previous ones,
the dendritic cells,
okay.
yes.
So they receive from the dendritic cells basically saying, hey, this thing entered our system, this is the DNA information we have on it.
Right.
And then the B cells, what I missed how
so the big things with the B cells that they're the ones that are really responsible for the antibodies. So I guess like another thing you could even think about, like, you have an initial invasion by some foreign enterprise, and it's really the B cells are there, like, where did they come from? What are they like? They're getting all this information, and think about, like, when you have more information about an enemy, I think you can do a better job at conquering the enemy. And I think we all know what I'm talking about. Okay, so so it's in quotes. There's actually really nothing wrong to get sick. We all kind of do sometimes. When I was in naturopathic school, we would even talk that it was kind of very important to like get sick at least like once or twice a year just for immune health in general. But so why is it that some people seem to never get sick? So yes, genetics definitely plays a part in how our immune system works, whether or not we are more susceptible to certain illnesses. So definitely genetics do play a strong role. Our environment. So is anyone familiar with the concept of the hygiene hypothesis or hygiene paradox? I think
the more you, this says the more you clean, the more you avoid certain things. Is that what we're talking about? Like
something, yes, that, yes.
Then your body has less things to react and like fight against constantly, so therefore the immune system kind of like slacks off. Am I?
Yes, yeah. And so the reason I chose a farm, so many studies actually have shown that, you know, people that were like raised in farms and like, you know, in the dirt, eating dirt, that actually is really beneficial for the immune system, not just in, you know, fighting off like colds and flus, etc., but also, I mean, this is a little bit outside the scope of this presentation, but when we think about things like autoimmune diseases, and that that's where more the hygiene hypothesis comes in, that our immune system kind of almost gets lazy or bored, and so it needs to like attack itself to do something. But then the other thing with the environmental part, you know, unfortunately, you know, living in an urban environment, not necessarily talking about the overuse of hygiene products per se, but more like air quality definitely has a big part to play in our susceptibility to colds and flus. So prior viral infections actually also play a role, specifically cytomegalovirus. So having that infection actually lowers immune function.
What's that virus?
Cytomegalovirus, which with the previous slide when I talked about the different, you know, cells of the immune system, these are things that can be tested. Also CMV can be tested, and I often will run that if I have a patient that seems to be overly susceptible to colds and flus. And then lastly, again, we don't know everything. We still don't know why. Why is it that some people just, for some reason, are not getting sick? Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some of the lifestyle and diet for immunity. Okay, so sleep. So getting enough adequate sleep is extremely important for immune function. And it actually, back to like, you know, looking at the innate and the adaptive, definitely has a big impact on both sides of the immune system. And one definitely that, you know, studies have shown that getting less than 7 hours of sleep over the course of 2 weeks does increase your risk of getting a cold or flu about 30%.
Less than 7 hours on average, or less than 7 hours total?
On average.
Okay.
Yeah, on average.
I was like, wow, that would definitely.
Well, also because so that would be extremely. That would be not. That's like 1 hour of sleep a night. That's like, yeah. That would be kind of. You actually can't live after. There was I forget how many days you can actually live if you have not slept. Like you actually can die.
Really?
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, hopefully nobody has that problem. But
no, but I'm saying like.
We like
Torture people.
Yeah. Right. I know we do. Yeah, but I don't know if it's like 72. There is a limit. But the other interesting thing about sleep, and specifically sleep deprivation, we're not even talking about like your more susceptibility to colds and flus, but it actually has a negative impact on the efficacy of vaccinations. In fact, it actually reduces one's ability to produce antibodies from a vaccine. Sleep deprivation. It actually reduces. So if you don't get enough sleep and you get a vaccine, it actually reduces the vaccine's ability, or your ability to take the information from the vaccine and to actually produce sufficient antibodies. It just
usually what happens if someone's very sleep deprived is they reach a state of like total exhaustion and they're just like they just fall asleep.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, there's like overtired when you have a hard
time. Right.
I mean, I could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but definitely long-term effects of sleep deprivation can have negative impact on immune function. That's why one of the reasons why when you are sick, it's really important to get adequate rest and sleep.
Is there a difference between rest and sleep?
It's a good question.
Like, cause
I mean, because
sometimes,
well, sleep, I mean, is reducing certain
Cycles,
phase.
no?
I mean, there's certain like waves that
I'm
one, yeah.
talking about like medically, like sometimes I feel like, especially when I was teaching, like I needed days just to like sit up on my bed and do nothing. Like
I think that's
felt like
beautiful.
My body needed it,
Yeah,
but I didn't sleep necessarily. Like I'm saying that.
right. I mean, I would say
I
that
got like 8 hours of sleep and then I just needed to like rest. So is there medically?
well, I mean, they're two different things.
Yeah.
I think they both have a benefit for
Mhm.
sure. I would say though, rest without sleep probably would not be like if you were not sleep. That's like another thing. I think rest in addition to adequate sleep, I think it's a good thing to do.
I'm saying medically, is it like, what do you tell someone to like sleep and go to rest medically? Or that's
Well, because I guess like when I say rest, I mean in addition to there's sleep like that we do, and like there's repair complexes that happen and everything like that, and memory consolidation, etc. Rest per se would be maybe not engaging in too much mental processes, like really minimizing. I see that more as like a conservation of energy that I think is really important. And another condition that I often work with is chronic EBV, or chronic Epstein-Barr virus, and it's very important for these patients to really rest and relax. And many of them really shouldn't even be engaging, even though I'm going to be talking about the immune benefits of exercise. I'll often tell those patients that they really should not. It's not a good time for them to be exercising. Does that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, so moderate to vigorous exercise for about 60 minutes, at least a few days a week, has positive benefits
60?
on about 60 minutes.
60 or
60.
60. Okay.
Yeah. Does have positive benefit.
60 minutes a day?
I'd say like most, like 3 to 4 days a week. I mean, obviously we're not going to miss, but so exercise has.
Just when it's cold, that's very hard. But yeah.
Yeah, of course. So exercise has positive benefits on immune function, mostly by enhancement of the circulation of our immune cells. It's one of the big benefits of exercise. Also, again, like increasing oxygen. And then when I get into, I think the next slide, yes. And it actually even makes our ability to mount immune response quicker. So it has a lot of benefits. Now, the one thing I would have to say again, like back to like if you actually, exercise is good as like a preventative. Obviously, if you're sick, not a good time to be engaging in a lot of physical activity for multiple reasons. Okay, so stress. So stress, because of the production of catecholamines, so these are things like adrenaline, epinephrine, a lot of corticosteroids, all of these actually suppress immune function. Actually, if anyone knows anybody who has, for example, an autoimmune condition, very often the course of medication is typically a steroid. And what does the steroid do? It actually reduces inflammation, which is inflammation is basically our immune system functioning. And so that's the chemical reason why stress has an impact on immune function. I would also say that stress has an indirect impact on immune function in one, when we're stressed, are we sleeping well? Probably not. And so again, if we know that already, like sleep has a real important impact on immune function. But then I'm going to be talking about in further slides, but often when we're stressed, what kind of foods are we eating? And yeah, a lot of junky food. We're not sleeping well. We might not be making the best choices. We're skimping on maybe the exercise. So all these different other aspects of stress definitely can have a big part to play in our susceptibility to colds and flus. That's where it's important to be building in different stress management practices, whether it's exercise, meditation, breath work, yoga, even just calling up a girlfriend, studying something that's meaningful to you. So making sure that you have something built in every day to really help with stress management. And sometimes it's also resting, taking a break from stepping away from whatever it is that is stressing you out. Okay, so sugar. Yeah, so this kind of ties in back to the stress part. So often when we're stressed, we will reach for the sugar. But something really fascinating about sugar is that when we intake a large amount, within just 30 minutes, our immune system's ability to function actually decreases by 50%. And even crazier, it lasts for 5 hours. So I don't know if you're already starting to notice, like, specifically if we think about like Tishrei, we're eating a lot of like decadent foods, we're staying up late, or maybe we're stressed about it. So, and then we get sick after. The other interesting thing too about sugar, and I'm going to be talking about when let's see, what is like, when I say like immune supportive nutrients, what is like one of the first one that comes to mind?
Vitamin C.
Exactly. So you think vitamin C, right? Well, sugar actually lowers our ability to utilize vitamin C. So that's like even another reason why sugar can be specifically one when we're sick, but then also for trying to avoid colds and flus, to be mindful of sugar content that we're having. And I would say that it's not just even like granulated sugar, but also being aware of very high sugar juices. A lot of like our dried fruits can also be problematic.
Like Oreos, they have a lot.
Oreos.
Oh yeah.
No, but like as much as like orange juice.
They're all like, I don't know if there's like a website, but the nice thing is now a lot of there's a big initiative, or I think it's across the board now. All the nutritional labels now actually have the amount of added sugar.
Yeah.
And when I'm working with patients that are specifically struggling with either they need to fight some kind of infection, or they have a condition that is impacted and that they need to really have a strong immune system, my typical recommendation is either no more than 10 or no more than 5 grams of added sugar daily. And it's surprising, it can really add up. A lot of like our like ketchup and sauces, and it's like in everything. It's really really crazy. Yeah.
But I'm just curious, how many cookies do you have? What? Because I really
I
like.
can tell you, I have the package right here.
Like, is it better to have orange juice or cookies? Because orange juice has a lot of sugar.
Yeah, so they both have a lot of sugar, unfortunately. I mean, I guess one would argue that probably it's actually that's almost like a little bit of a tough one, really.
What about a whole fruit?
A whole fruit is perfect because you're getting the fiber, and it's not going to be this big shock to the
What
system.
about even like high sugar, like dates or mango?
This has 1 gram of added
I would say
sugar.
like a fresh mango would be better. Dates, I usually put them a lot more in the sugar category for
Really?
patients. Yeah. Again, like it's not that you can
Honey,
never
maple
have these
syrup.
foods again, but again, if you're just thinking about moderation, or if you think that you might be coming down with something, it might be a good time to like refrain from the sugar.
What about like honey, maple syrup?
Yeah, so those are all still sugar. They really are. And again, so, thinking about like proper limits, like no more than 10 or no more than 5. And I believe now even like the American Heart Association, and like you might think, oh wow, 10, that sounds like very low. But I think it is like the American Heart Association, I think it's like 15 grams for women and 20 grams for men. It's really not a lot. You can't even drink a soda.
I was gonna say a Coke is already.
You've already done
25
it, right?
for
Exactly.
already done for a few days. Yeah.
Yeah. So just as like a word of caution.
Is there something that helps keep
balance your sugar? Like to eat a lot of
Cancel
sugar
it
for
out.
like no reason? No, I'm serious,
Here,
guys.
here,
It's like
here,
a lot of my diet is sugar. Not sugar, wait, but
I was gonna have carrots though.
Okay, so similar to so alcohol really is a toxin, and even with though there is like some very small health benefits and very small dosages, the negative side of alcohol unfortunately doesn't really justify the quote unquote health benefits, and that you can get the same health benefits, from so many other things. But basically, alcohol negatively impacts all the parts of the immune system, starting from barrier function. So as I mentioned before, like our skin, I mean, not so much our skin, but that like, the lining of our GI tract, our lungs have these cells called epithelial cells. Well, alcohol damages epithelial cells. So that's one going to increase the likelihood that pathogens can get in. It also affects many cells of the innate and also the adaptive immune system. So it's really affecting all aspects of the immune system. So definitely want to be very mindful of alcohol intake. Definitely when you're sick, but again, even just from a preventative. So, and they've actually even started getting even stricter also with alcohol. So it used to be that it was recommended that women could have having one drink 7 days a week was fine, and for men it was 2. And now I think that they might have just recently decreased it now just 2 across the board. I definitely have to look that up, but I do believe that I might have heard something like that.
can I say something interesting?
Sure.
In Russia, if someone had a fever, like kids, the way they would help with the fever is they would massage the baby's feet or kid's feet with vodka.
Really? I've heard that too.
Is it to probably because it warms it up or cools it down or
I
something?
don't know. I just remember having my feet massaged with vodka.
Yeah, I mean that's not going to be really getting into you internally so much. I don't know either.
The cure face.
Yeah.
You're from that part of the world.
Right.
Maybe it was from alcohol. Oh, maybe.
Okay, so now these are more beneficial foods. So probiotics and fermented foods. So,
Kombucha.
yeah, kombucha, and so specifically, actually, sauerkraut, kimchi.
Someone should share that with Mrs. Butt because she does the. Oh yeah, she knows. A lot of our group does kombucha.
Oh yeah, yeah. I used to do it, and like I haven't. My SCOBY didn't make it when I moved.
Oh, I really.
I should. I mean, I could get another one easily.
I have if you ever want.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
Can you talk about yogurt? Like, is that a picture of yogurt?
Yeah, that's piece. Yeah, yogurt.
So, like what kind of yogurts are actually beneficial? Because most are just full of sugar.
Right. So definitely unsweetened. So I would say like if you're targeting, so there's probiotics like in the capsule form, and then there's also fermented foods, and they have kind of like different actions. So as far as like yogurt in general, you definitely not all yogurt. So big also has to do with brand. So the big thing would definitely, again, back to the whole sugar thing. So definitely want to have plain yogurts. Now the choice between a cow or goat, sheep versus a plant-based yogurt, really there's some other factors. So if you're somebody who tolerates dairy and you don't have a problem with dairy, there's no problem with having cow, sheep, goat. Now I will have to say though, if you actually are sick, now I'm going to keep on contradicting myself, but when you actually are sick, most of us really would not benefit from having animal dairy at that time because you are just going to be producing a lot of mucus from it. But from a preventative standpoint, if you tolerate it, that's perfectly fine. One of the things, so that if you have, I really actually, ideally I would say the best is really to make your own if you can, and you can even use your probiotic capsules to make yogurt. There's also a really good website if you're really interested in like fermented foods and making fermented foods. It's called Cultures for Health. They have great recipes. They also sell cultures. And you can definitely make your own. So, really high quality yogurts and also like kefir, etc. Usually tend to write the strains that are on it because you want to make sure that they're alive. Otherwise, you're not going to be getting the same benefit from it. And then I would say really actually specifically I wanted to talk about some specific fermented foods, things like sauerkraut, kimchi, and kefir. So they actually contain a specific acid, and so it's not, so with the fermented foods and bacteria, it's not even just about the bacteria themselves, but also some of the things that they produce. So they actually have this acid that actually acts as like an immune system, like attractant. And so that can really, really help with immune function. But if you remember back when I was talking about the physical barriers, so the ways that probiotics work really are one, either through crowding. So whether it's the lining of our GI tract, our respiratory tract, and then I know we're not talking about female reproduction, but really making sure that we have robust bacteria, beneficial bacteria in our vaginal tissues can actually really prevent urinary tract infections, different vaginal infections, just by through the sheer act of just like crowding out the invaders, but also that these bacteria also produce substances that either directly kill pathogens or signal to the immune system to function better. And I wanted to just address a few specific strains. So most of the bacteria that we kind of talk about are like various species of lactobacillus, and some of the big ones specifically when we're thinking about like respiratory. So lactobacillus plantarum, lactobacillus rhamnosus. There's been really good studies specifically against the flu. They were using strains of the H1N1. Also Lactobacillus casei, fermentum, and of course probably everyone knows acidophilus. So these are all different strains that are really have shown positive benefits against respiratory infections.
May I ask something?
Sure.
It's not exactly you mentioned that acid. So is there something to do with the acid reflux that's natural?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's some, and I feel like that might be another presentation. Oh, oops.
I have a question. There's like this controversial thing, raw milk versus pasteurized milk.
Oh yes.
I'm curious what your thoughts on it, because I don't know what I think of it. I just know well, I just know that I heard.
I can tell you all the controversy.
I heard like raw milk is has more like a lot more health benefits because it's not once you cook something, boil something up, then it kills a lot of the good bacteria. But that sounds like curious. I tried raw milk and it made me sick. So I drank too much though at once.
Right.
And I got kind of sick.
Yeah, so again, so yeah, like during the heating process, a lot of the some beneficial.
Somebody told me no, it's just it's a detox.
Okay, I've never heard of a raw milk detox, but maybe that's a thing. I don't
But
know.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I actually do know a lot on raw milk, but I feel like that might be not taking away a little bit from, but we can maybe talk offline.
But can you say in short, like something that will help with acid reflux?
After class.
Yes.
Let her get through her.
Okay,
topic.
so this is just some aspects of like immune supportive diet, and I mean, it's basically a lot of it's just good basic healthy principles, choosing more whole grains. So yes, I talked a lot about sugar, but even like refined carbohydrates are pretty much just like sugar as well. So really choosing whole grains that have at least 2 grams of fiber per serving, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, high quality protein, basically just, I think, good common diet sense. And I want to talk about some of the immune supportive nutrients. So vitamin D. So the way that we found out that vitamin D is immune supportive is actually pretty interesting. So in the turn of the century, when people got really sick, they sent you to a sanitarium, and it was like a place where you would like detox, and they would do all these like things. And also, it was just to also keep you away from other people and getting you sick. So this one sanitarium with tuberculosis patients, one of the parts of their treatment was taking them out into the sun. And it was through the sun and also giving them cod liver oil. So cod liver oil is very high in vitamin D naturally. And then cod liver oil is high in vitamin D, but also, and then we get vitamin D from the sun. So that's kind of interesting of how we figured out that vitamin D had immune supportive properties. Vitamin D is kind of interesting vitamin in the sense that it's actually almost more, or it is actually a hormone as well. And the other important aspect about vitamin D is, or how one of the ways that it works is that most of our immune cells actually do have vitamin D receptors. And typically in my practice, I dose vitamin D based on where my patients are. So for optimal levels, you really want to make sure that you have vitamin D levels of at least 50. And then also in the winter months, we do not absorb hardly any vitamin D from the sun. We're really, specifically where we are on the earth, we're really only absorbing vitamin D basically May through September. So often we need to definitely supplement with vitamin D in the winter. Also, if we're breastfeeding, if we're pregnant, we're going to have a higher vitamin D requirement. But I always just dose based on what my patient needs. The other important thing about vitamin D is the fat soluble vitamin. So if you are supplementing with vitamin D, you do need to take it with a fat. So whether it's with a food or with if you're taking fish oil. So it's a fat soluble. Okay, so vitamin A. So vitamin A actually has positive benefits on all aspects of our immune system, and it really helps with the epithelial cells. It helps with the cells of our innate and also our adaptive immune system. It's found in a lot of our colorful fruits and vegetables in the form of beta carotene. It's also found in liver. Now, the one thing, though vitamin A is really good with immune support, it's also toxic, or can be toxic. So you do have to be careful with the amount of vitamin A you're taking and for the length of time, because it can have a negative impact on your liver. And you also have to be cautious with vitamin A if you are pregnant. So women that are pregnant, might become pregnant, really don't want to be taking, if you are supplementing with vitamin A, really don't want to be taking more than 5,000 IUs a day. So really have to be careful of vitamin A. You don't have to worry so much from naturally occurring vitamin A in foods, but as far as supplementation, but it can be really good for immune support. So you don't have to be afraid of it, but I need to just tell you that.
Real quick question.
Yes.
Is it good to eat a lot of fruits? Because that has a lot of vitamins in it?
It depends. Yeah, I would say I usually will steer my patients more towards eating more vegetables first.
Okay.
Most people only really need 1 or 2 servings of fruit, but when it comes to vegetables, really wanting about like 4 to 6 servings, getting
So
more
vegetables and fruits.
Oh yeah, definitely,
Okay, got
for multiple reasons.
Got it.
And every fruit definitely has health benefits. I'm not going to say
yeah.
fruit is bad, but if you could only pick one, I would pick the vegetables over the fruits. So antioxidants are really important for immune function. I was actually giving a talk on fertility last night and talking a lot about antioxidants. And one of the big reasons why antioxidants are important is the prevention of cellular damage. And again, we really need to make sure that our cells are operating efficiently in order to have a good immune system. And so some of our main antioxidants are vitamin C, which again is a very classic immune supportive vitamin, vitamin E, also selenium. These are all really, really important, both from diet. And the other thing with the nutrients, I would say, is often when it comes to immune support, we do need to often dose them a little bit higher than we would typically get from naturally occurring in the diet. Zinc. So zinc has a lot of antiviral properties. It definitely stimulates parts of our immune system. We get it a lot from meat. We get it from nuts and seeds. Although the one thing with nuts and seeds is that there are little things in them called phytates, and so we don't absorb all the zinc or a lot of the minerals from some of our plant sources. We don't always absorb them all because we have some different or we lack certain enzymes that other creatures in the world don't. They do have. So it is also a good idea to get both from animal sources and plant sources. Of course, if you're vegan, you might also have to supplement. The other thing when it comes to zinc and immune support, and if you're taking in a zinc supplement, you really should be taking it on an empty stomach. It can be difficult for some patients because zinc can be very nauseating. So I will either have patients dose it at bedtime or an hour after a pretty substantial meal. And then if they really have a hard time tolerating it, I'll often have them take it with like a little bit of fruit. And the main reason is that a lot of our nutrients actually compete with each other. So iron and, for example, like iron and calcium compete.
Just the beauty of cautious.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I know. Isn't it beautiful? I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Iron, which is a big source of iron, is meat, and calcium, a big source of calcium is milk, and we dafka
Yeah.
with space in between.
Exactly.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
The chef designed it.
Right.
From the
Can't
get-go.
eat calcium and
You're not meant to eat them at the same time because then your body doesn't absorb, right?
Right. So basically, if you eat a if you say you're iron deficient, right, and you have like an iron rich meal, but you decide either because you're goyim and you drink big glass of milk, or you decide to take a lot of calcium, you actually reduce your body's ability to absorb the iron from that meal. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some herbs for colds and flus. And before I even get started, one of the really important things when it comes to herbs, I'd say herbs even more than nutrients, quality really does count. You have to be really mindful of what you actually purchase in the store. So I often really recommend, if possible, even you could make your own. And so two companies in particular, Mountain Rose Herbals and Star. Oh, okay, so we already know. Star West.
Hannah Silverstein.
Uh-huh.
She's an herbalist.
Oh, she
So when she spoke for us last time, that was a company that she suggested.
Yeah. So Mountain Rose Herb and Star West, they have really great bulk herbs. They also have tinctures because, you know, whenever I have a patient say, oh, I tried that herb, it didn't work for me. And then I see what I'm like, I don't even know if this product even contains this herb. And there's a lot of, unfortunately, either, and because there's so many important aspects when it comes to herbs. The part of the plant really matters, the quality, and also that it definitely contains the right amount. And so really want to make sure that you're choosing high quality herbs. So the company is Mountain Rose Herbals and then Star West Herbals and Star West. And they have extra. So there we go.
Win-win.
It's a
What
win-win.
about, I don't know if I'm gonna go ahead, but what about tea?
Okay, so you mean like drinking? Well, I'm gonna go and talk about some of my choice herbs, kind of like how one would formulate, and then I'll give you some formulations too.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you want tea companies?
No, just
Okay.
like having herbs and like, let's say you like buy from like a Yogi brand or.
So Yogi brand, I'll say Yogi brand and traditional medicinals as far as easy access herbal products, they're excellent. I always recommend those, definitely.
There's like another company of tea that's also like.
Oh, I think it's like Alethea, something like they're in a white box. There
Yeah.
are some good brands out there.
Mhm.
Okay, so The first herb I want to talk about is astragalus. And so astragalus is actually a classic Chinese antiviral herb. What I like of, and it also has adaptogen properties. So adaptogens are herbs that help with adrenal function. So, times of stress. Astragalus is great in both that it can really be supportive in prevention of colds and flus, but also can be used in conjunction with other herbs when you actually do have a cold or flu. So it has both antiviral properties, but it also is helps to activate different parts of our immune system.
And where does this herb? I've never heard this. Where does it come from?
So it is originally a Chinese herb, though I do believe that they do cultivate it also in the States. So yes, and that's a good question. So it's always really important that we know the parts of the herb that is important, because if you do decide to buy a pre-made product, it should state the part of the plant. And if it doesn't state the part of the plant, you can be a little bit skeptic. And then also if it says the part of the plant and you're like, wait, that's not really the part of the plant that does that. So is this really doing it? Exactly. Yes. Yes. So that is also astragalus has also beneficial. I mean, we're not talking about, but it has also beneficial properties on kidney function as well. And you can use this in a tea. You can get a tincture. It also really makes you can like you can, I guess, like, trying to think like augment, or no, I'm trying to think of, like, what am I trying to say? You can improve like the property of your chicken soup and make it even more therapeutic.
What is a tincture?
So a tincture, I know I just was like demonizing alcohol, but so tincture is basically a alcohol preparation of herbs. So that's another actually important aspect when it comes to utilizing herbs. So herbs have all these different things that we call constituents, and the different constituents have different properties. And so sometimes actually doing an alcohol preparation via tincture makes that herb more powerful, or you're getting more of what you want from that herb. So that could actually be a benefit. If alcohol is a problem, one of the things that you can do when it comes to utilizing tinctures is you can actually add them to hot water. And so it just basically burns off the alcohol. So if you really did not want alcohol for whatever reason, and then there is another type of tincture that doesn't use alcohol called a glycerate. Though the only thing is glycerates don't work for all herbs, but it does work for a lot of herbs and has like a similar benefit.
And it's sugar.
Yes, but it doesn't, it's sugar, but it's not. I think it doesn't actually have an impact. It's sweet, but it doesn't actually have an impact on like insulin levels, like something like for example, like stevia, monk fruit. It's kind of, yeah, it doesn't really have a glycemic impact, though it is sweet. That's a good point.
Usually the herbs I buy for my kids are on
That's right.
glycerate, yeah.
Yeah, makes
For
sense.
adults are
Yes. Okay. So medicinal mushrooms, really good for immune support. So this is reishi. This is probably one of my favorite immune support mushrooms. They and even moving back, I did do this presentation like the beginning, like it was like something 2020, and so we were all like, of course, like, very interested in COVID, and so one of the things I was taking was lots and lots of medicinal mushrooms, and one of the blends I was using had reishi in it, specifically because a lot of our medicinal mushrooms really help. I talked about like the B cells and really help, and also the T cells, really helping with facilitating like the adaptive immunity. Classic herb is echinacea. And so echinacea, so this is again where we get back into like how the parts are significant. So you actually have two different types of echinacea. And you also know like if your product is good or bad by which one, and do they tell you the right parts? So there's echinacea angustifolia, and that we use like the flowering tops like you see here. And then there's Echinacea purpura, and that one we actually use the root. They both have benefits in cold and flu prevention, and also fighting off the duration of a cold and flu. It's also one of the only, so that one of the downsides of a lot of herbs is many of them are contraindicated during pregnancy and lactation, either because we definitely know that there could be a problem, or we could deduce based on like other things they do that could cause a problem, or we just don't know. But echinacea is actually hands down like a safe herb to use during pregnancy and lactation. Okay, so those were all the herbs that I just mentioned do both like preventative and also like you have a cold or flu. So lomatium is a really heavy hitting herb. I wouldn't necessarily use this for prevention, but if you are really sick, I definitely recommend using lomatium. It's the root. It comes from the Pacific Northwest. One of my last year in naturopathic school, we did this like amazing camping trip in the Cascades where we actually got to harvest lomatium and make our own tinctures. It was really cool. But it has very strong antiviral, really strong immune stimulant, and you actually don't really need it. It's a very nasty tasting herb, and you really don't need that much of it, and it can be really powerful as part of any kind of formula.
Are you saying that all these herbs that you just mentioned are not good for pregnancy?
Only echinacea of the there's mixed about
Echinacea is good.
yeah, echinacea is totally fine. The other ones you have, I mean, definitely talk to your doctor, like talk to like your midwife, your OB, but I tend to be very conservative when it comes to pregnancy and lactation. Other doctors might also might recommend. I'm just very conservative, so I only recommend herbs that are like we know 100% are fine. Similarly with nutrients. And here's a bunch of other herbs. So when we're doing a formula, we might want to think about adding a bunch of different herbs. So adaptogens. So adaptogens are herbs that we associate with the adrenal glands. They're good for stress, and they're a really great additive to any kind of immune supportive formula. So some of our classic adaptogens, I wrote them on the scientific names. So licorice, which is glycyrrhiza, your ginsengs. Are people familiar with rhodiola? I think like everybody's into rhodiola now. Eleutherococcus is Siberian ginseng. So these are always good to have. Holy basil, any of these adaptogens you can definitely add to a formula. Lymphagogues, really important. So what does that mean? It's basically moving the lymph, so moving our white blood cells, moving our immune cells. So phytolacca is poke root, very commonly we think of what like pharyngitis. There's a classic formula called the hemp formula, which is hydrastis, which is golden seal, echinacea, myrrh, and phytolacca. So it's really moving all the immune system here. Gallium, which is also called cleavers. Not only is that good for upper respiratory, but also anything like pelvic related. So if you're thinking about moving the lymph of that region, if there's any infections, immune stimulants, so Bacteria, Chianensis, which is red root, which I also harvested on that same trip. Very good immune stimulant, any antivirals. So Ligusticum, I think is a little bit more well known. That's also called OSHA, very strong antiviral. Diaphoretics, so diaphoretics. So I didn't really talk about this so much, but in one of the big principles is rather than suppressing a fever, that we should actually help to mount a fever. And I might have even talked about that with the wet socks treatment in the last presentation. So some of our classic herbs that help with fever, and when I say help with fever, actually promote a fever. So Achillea, which is yarrow, has kind of like a nice, also yarrow is really good, I feel, as like a good herb when you're sick, because it also has it's bitter, so it's also going to help with digestion. So thinking about like when we're sick, we might not be eating, but we need to take in some nourishment. So adding some yarrow, Mitricaria is chamomile, Sambucus is elderflower, Tilia, those are really great. And then nervines. So nervines are herbs that help to calm the nervous system. And if we think about it, when we're sick, we really need to be resting and sleep, but we might not feel comfortable. So something like lemon balm can be great. Also lavender, lavender. I mean, actually that could be like the one herb because it's like, it's antimicrobial. Okay, so here are just some pre-made formulas if you like don't want to get too much into making things. So Blue Bonnet makes a really great mushroom blend, which you could take both preventatively, but also if you do have a cold or flu. I love all the immune supportive teas by Traditional Medicinals. I think they're fantastic.
Traditional is a company.
Yes, yeah. So those teas are really great. They're really yummy. They're organic and they don't put like any kind of weird additives. And you can really trust that brand. The Blue Bonnet Wellness Support Defense, that's a mixture of both vitamins, minerals, but also different herbs. I didn't put it on there, but they also make a really good beta carotene with C, E, and selenium that I like. So if you're not wanting herbs and you just wanted the nutrients, I think that's a really great product.
Beta carotene.
Yeah, it's like called like beta carotene plus or something. I actually prescribe it a lot with my acne patients, but it's also really good for immune support. And then lastly would be Landau makes some really good zinc lozenges with echinacea and vitamin C. So those are just things that like you just want to like pick something up at the store. Now I'm going to get into some classic herbal remedies. These are what I learned in naturopathic school. If you want to get a little bit more fancy, you probably would want to maybe get these ahead of time. So here is a dry cough tea. So we have mullein, which I think somebody was talking, again, like how like the different parts of a plant have different properties. So mullein is very much that. So mullein, the root is very much more for the like the urinary tract, and then the flower much for respiratory. Coltsfoot is very much, so this is dry cough tea, so it's very much indicated for dry cough because it helps to like reduce kind of like that chaotic coughing. You would not want to use that herb for a wet cough where you're wanting to get stuff out. Marshmallow is what we call an alterative or a demulcent herb. So basically it helps to soothe tissues. And then anise acting as like an expectorant and has all the parts. And so this is a tickling cough syrup. And you could actually take these herbs. Typically we would do them in a tincture form, but you could actually use them also as a tea, though one of the things that I feel like as a tea, you probably would want to do much more of like a decoction. So decoction is when you boil more like roots and berries versus a tea is more when you would actually just do like leaves and flowers. And so probably like one of the strongest herbs in this definitely would be the lobelia. So that is really helpful. So lobelia is one of these interesting herbs when you can either dose it high and dose it low, and it actually has different effects. And then all around, so this is like a really heavy hitter. I would not recommend just taking this just to take it. This is definitely when you actually are, and when I talk about like my 4-point strategy, one of the most important things definitely is just starting these things as early as possible, like at the earliest sign. So this is definitely something that you would want to start very early on, probably taking about anywhere like 1 to 2 dropperfuls every 3 to 4 hours. Really, really strong. You could definitely add it to, if you were doing a tincture, you could definitely add it to some water. You could also, again, easily make this into a tea.
Is there such thing as like a
what's the word, like a set of like a few things that are good for flu season. Meaning like something like all these herbs, right? So these are things that we would make.
Right. So I definitely recommend, like as far as like when it comes to a very effective herbal formula, you typically want at least a couple things. Like you want to include kind of like if I went back to this earlier slide, yeah. So, if I was coming up with a formula, coming up with like, including definitely an adaptogen, you definitely want to have a lymphagogue, lots of immune stimulating, antiviral. So having a blend of different herbs.
You're wondering if this self. Yeah, I think it's more of a detailed questions.
And then here's some, so homeopathy is a little bit more difficult, but like, so these are some of our classic acute homeopathic remedies. One of my teachers always really felt that the best homeopathic remedy for any condition was somebody's constitutional. So if you've ever worked with a homeopath, and so that was his philosophy. But these are some remedies that are typically associated with a fever. So aconite, belladonna, I feel it's like belladonna and camellia, I think are like, that's exact, like when I think fever, like that is what I think of. And then coughs, and a big part also has to do with like other symptoms, and then there definitely are some homeopathic blends that will often like have like a little bit of all of these, and hopefully that one of them will work.
Constitutional is more right? Constitution for like long term.
Well, what fits your the one that fits you better, like
Right. So that's like when you've met with a homeopath, you talked for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, everything. Yes. And so the other thing with my one of my teachers, the same teacher who also said that the best remedy was the constitutional, that when you're deciding on an acute, that if it's the right one, it should work. Like that he recommended basically doing one, and then if it wasn't working, then to go to another one.
As opposed to
That it would either work, or if it works, it works. If it's not working, it's the wrong remedy for that patient.
And how long does it take to like, what's your timeline for like it's working?
For the homeopath?
Yeah.
I mean, it should be, you should start noticing a change within like about 30 minutes to an hour.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he would say to like, that was his philosophy, but that's one philosophy. Okay, so here's my 4-point cold and flu strategy. So rest is really important. So, as soon as you start, you're not feeling well, good time to just like, let's just cancel plans. Let's like stay in for the night, and maybe the next morning it'll be gone. And wouldn't that be great?
I have a question. Actually, basically the one but I have
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
daily testing.
Okay. So eliminate sugar. So again, like you're coming down something, it's a good time to eliminate sugar. And then I would say plus dairy and gluten if you can. Definitely dairy just because of the mucus production. And then for many of us during, like we're fighting something, gluten could be inflammatory. So definitely sugar, but also possibly the dairy and the gluten. Oops. Okay, so this I think is really important. So really, since we wanted a natural strategy, you really do need to hit it as hard and early as possible. And so we're talking about like taking it every 2 to 3 hours. And so I think all of us have like, and I was working with a new patient on Wednesday, and she's actually coming to see me because she feels like she keeps getting sick. And so I was asking her, like, what are her early symptoms? Because I think all of us have it. Like for me, I know that I might be coming down something. I always feel it in my muscles. Like I feel sore. I'd be like, wait, did I work out yesterday? It's like, no. And then that's usually my first symptom. And I know, okay, like maybe I need to like rest, or maybe I need to start taking something. And often if you catch it early enough, you won't get sick. Or if you do get sick, it won't last as long. Because the other big thing too is getting sick, since we call it the flus, you also might end up getting a sinus infection, which is actually one of the other reasons why eliminating the dairy and gluten can be a good idea, because it's one thing just to have the cold and flu, and then second to then have a sinus infection after. Nobody wants that.
No.
And then support, don't suppress a fever. So that's again why using things like the diaphoretic herbs, doing something like wet sock treatments, can be beneficial.
Can you, oh,
Yes.
Yes.
Fever.
Yeah.
The fever, just to give a little more context of what are the benefits of a fever? 'Cause I know everyone thinks I have a fever.
Right,
They
right.
quickly take something to take it down.
Yeah, because they feel
Oh.
uncomfortable. So, I mean, actually, the fever is our immune system working. It's basically that's all, like, all I have to say. I mean, yes, there are dangerous fevers. Infants, for example, that can be like there are definitely. So again, there's a couple, and there's different things. So like again, in certain populations and certain temperatures, it can be dangerous. And of course, like that's not what I'm.
Well,
I
that
don't-
too, but that's not what she meant.
Right. I mean, you mean to lower a fever.
Yeah, it's a lower fever.
I mean, there's a lot of different things, that I
Is it
could.
necessary? I'm just so curious, like what, like the natural, like because usually like the doctor will tell you, oh, like, when my baby was sick, they told us, which I didn't totally listen, like all the way because I just thought it was too much, but I need to give her Tylenol every 4 hours. I need to give my baby Tylenol every 4 hours.
Well, I guess again, it really depends on like what temperature we're talking about, because so if babies do, so certain temperatures are dangerous and they can cause a seizure.
103,
Right.
102, 100 degree, 102 degree fever.
Mhm.
103 is dangerous.
I mean, I'm not going to kind of go there. Yeah. Yeah.
So can I ask, basically the question that I had earlier was, is there like you have a lot of different herbs and remedies that you listed.
Right.
Is there such a thing as like buying like a kit?
Oh, like a
Of, like,
pre-made one, you mean? Or
something like that? Of like let's say I don't have all the supplies to make the tinctures or
Right.
the remedies. So is there such a thing as like, oh, cold and flu season's coming up, like I'm gonna buy a kit so that I'm prepared. So as soon as I start feeling something, I don't have to run and try and buy something or make something, like I'll have it prepared. Or is that just like 21st century stuff that we're
I mean, there
just
might be
having
something out
everything
there.
ready?
I mean, there might be some herbal company or there. So I mean, again, like I did include a couple like pre-made formulas that you can buy in the store, and like maybe you want to buy some of those and keep them on hand.
Okay.
Bush Gardens, Bush Garden.
Oh yeah, those are good. Yeah.
Other kickbacks.
Oh yeah, that one's really good.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that one's
Anyone
really
who
good.
knows herbs and I say that, that's usually the
Yeah,
right
that one's
one.
really good.
That one you can get on Amazon. What is it? The company's called Wish Garden.
Yeah, actually, I think they do make like a set or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
very
so
good.
Wish Garden,
Yeah, they're
and-
based in Oregon. They're fantastic.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Another thing also, I mean, I didn't talk about this as much, but also essential oils are really good to have on hand.
What
Even
essential oils? Lavender.
lavender oil, tea tree,
eucalyptus. Oh,
yeah.
eucalyptus have to be careful with babies.
Well, babies and I mean, and also during pregnancy too.
What about, there's this Swiss blend called Abaz oil that we always used it when we were little.
Oh, I never heard of it.
What is it?
It's a European thing that people would use. Abaz oil.
Abaz.
It's like, we use it for like nasal.
But yeah, essential oils can be really
All that.
good for
All that oil.
either steam inhalation. You can, I mean, it's a little controversial, but you can have some of that if it's. I mean, that's also where you also want to make sure you have high quality. But you can even take just like one drop of. It has to be real lavender oil. It can't be like you got it like not something. But you can actually take one drop of lavender oil when you at the first sign of like a cold or flu, and that can also just like nip in just one. Well, you can or just you can do
Oh,
it
you
more.
put it in?
Just one drop though. Just
I
like
put it in water, like a little bit
you
of
do the
water,
same
and
thing.
then
Yeah.
you-
Yeah.
But like you have to make
One
sure, like you
lemon,
said, like you
yeah,
have to make sure it's like a real.
And I'm not saying drink it. I'm just, I mean, you are taking it, but I mean, it's literally just one drop. We're
Yeah,
not
it's one drop.
doing any more than,
So
A drop.
what about fermented um garlic and onions?
oh yeah,
Like
definitely.
in honey. What can you
Oh yeah,
like,
like an
what are the-
oxymel. Yeah, there's so many, there's so many things. I mean,
like what are the benefits? Because I made it this year finally, I remembered. And I'm like, I take it every day. And I'm like,
Oh,
am I
well, they
still
have
gonna take it
very
every day?
strong-
And am I like what are the benefits? That's so smart.
okay, so basically, specifically garlic and also onion, they have really good sulfur compounds. In fact, actually, garlic has been used against MRSA.
Wow.
So this is a bacteria that is basically immune to antibiotics, but garlic actually can fight against it. Oh, garlic! I mean, garlic's that's another. I mean, that's an easy one. Just having like 2 or 3 cloves of garlic, and you can heat it. It doesn't have to be like completely. You don't have to be like so hardcore and eat it raw.
My son and I did it. We
I
did a
was doing
contest.
that. I used to do that a lot.
Yeah.
What about ginger? Because I feel like
Oh yeah, those are good because also like again like that also kind of goes back into like so I mean ginger is just a great herb when we even think about from making formulation perspective we consider what's called a synergizer. It just seems to kind of like get everything like kick started. So our classic synergizers are ginger and licorice. So that's why they're in so many formulas.
so where because I feel like ginger you can just buy in the grocery store. Where can you get like the licorice from? What is anise?
Oh, so licorice.
No.
No. So traditional medicinals makes a licorice. I mean, you can get a lot of licorice teas, and again, depending on the brand, they can be, higher or lower quality. Definitely, you can buy like tinctures. Trying to think of like where else.
What's the website you said again that you could buy stuff?
Mountain Rose.
Mountain.
Yeah. And they have like a variety, like.
Because
Oh yeah.
the orders it's for shipping.
Right,
So
yeah.
In the past, last year, I think we did a group shop and we all got a little bit of something and it worked out really.
And there's like all kinds of fun things you can do. Like you can also take I know it's like funny. So I was talking about like don't have sugar, but an interesting way to make herbs is like grinding them and then mixing them in honey. So it's like another
That's
interesting.
what I did. That's what I did with the garlic. Like I chopped it up and the onions. I chopped it up and
Yeah.
You didn't even need to chop it.
I feel like it's more potent when it's chopped, no?
I did
Is
like
that a thing?
I don't know.
The recipe that I was given a few years ago was you put them whole. I mean, the onion you cut up smaller, but you leave it for 3 days. Every day you flip it over just to get it or whatever. For 3 days afterwards, you take them out and you just have them.
Oh, you're not supposed to eat the garlic or onion?
Probably I would.
But
It
if
probably
you're, like,
tastes good.
sensitive to
You
it.
would?
I mean,
You would or you would not?
I
Then you can eat it.
love garlic and onion.
No,
I just
I
like
think she was saying that it's staying in the.
right.
It's like over
Yeah.
fermented.
Also, I got like an organic local honey and I fermented.
Same.
hmm
Myself.
If you're like sensitive to like garlic or onion, will this making this help or not?
I don't think it depends. But what is the sensitivity? apple cider vinegar.
Doesn't
Mhm.
or does?
They do, yeah.
Oh, just to
I
drink it
wouldn't
like
have
that
thought of that. That's so smart.
Yeah,
with nothing mixed in, just with spoon.
It's like a little shot, no?
yeah, with some water.
My
Yeah,
mom was doing that.
yeah, in the
I
morning.
should try that.
Oh.
Oh,
With
in
the
morning?
mother. Get the good stuff.
What about now? Like, what if I'm having it now? What do I? Can I try
Well,
it?
if you're having it, like I wouldn't necessarily do it with when you're. It's more of a preventative. Aloe juice is really good.
Aloe juice.
Yeah, but not like the sugary one. Not the.
Like that is
How do you make aloe? Like I see aloe all the time at the store. How do you? I mean, for cuts, I know you literally just take the scoop and you put it.
Right. Oh, like how do they manufacture it?
No, like
Oh.
even if I were to buy a thing at the store and I want to make aloe juice, you just like.
Although you have to, I'm trying to think of, yeah, like how you would do it because you want to be careful with the latex aspect of it because then you would actually end up creating a laxative, which you don't, necessarily
Now have nothing.
unless you want that. I mean, so
what
what-
do you, what does, can you explain that?
Laxative makes you go to the.
No, like with, right, no, but with the,
because I
you're
think,
saying to be, like, allergies might
no, I'm
become
just
a
trying to think of,
laxative.
yeah, no, I mean, I don't know how allergies is made, but I know that part of the leaf has like the latex part and it that has a laxative effect. And so I'm just trying to think of how do they make the aloe juice without, I don't know how they make aloe juice.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a.
Just
Google.
one quick question. With the office, what like a kid when like just like the only challenge I'm having it is I was told that you're supposed to take it like 2 hours in the day, right? But 3 hours every 3 hours in the night. And so it's like very annoying that to like wake up every 3 hours to take it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
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 I gave up on that one.
What?
I was like, I'll do it during the day, but I can't get up
I
every
can't
2
get
hours.
up during the
I had
night,
one
but
that
then
I
I,
like
but
did
then
it 2 hours.
I had these like issues where I was like I kept getting sick. Like I was like sick and then like 2 days later and I recovered and like 2 days later I get sick again. And I recover and then a few days later I get sick again. And I was like why am I getting sick? Whatever, because I don't know, maybe because I wasn't consistent with the night.
Right. Yeah.
It's just not worth it for me to get out of bed and sit out. It's just crazy. It's just, I'm not getting out of bed, but just take it just hard. Just
Mhm.
I mean, I was told that it doesn't really like helpful. It's not really helpful. Take it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's probably a conversation with your homeo. It's probably more of a conversation with your
No,
homeo.
I spoke about it. He said, no, it's just you just do it and then it's over with.
So where's your practice and how can we find you?
Sure. So my office, I have 2 offices. One is in the West Village and then I work remotely from home on Thursdays. Yeah. Yeah.
So great.
Yeah.
And how can we find you?
So I have a website. Oh,
And Instagram.
right there. And Instagram. And I have a YouTube channel. I've been doing now doing a whole series on healthy travel.
Oh, wow.
I just did one on jet lag and I have to do, I think, 5 or 6 more videos.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jet lag. That's so cool.
Yeah. Jet lag's a fun one.
Oh gosh, now you're getting me hooked. Okay, you're coming back. I love that. That's so cool.
In New York. What else? What other questions do we have? How
What's-
long can we keep you here for?
What's the difference in? I guess what is the actual anatomical difference in wet coughs and dry coughs? Like what's a dry cough trying to accomplish? What's a wet cough trying to accomplish? What do we want to help support?
Right. That's actually a really good question. So I would say in some ways, like, I feel like the wet cough, yeah, sure. I feel like the wet cough makes more, like, I know I keep, talking about like the healing power of nature. I feel like the wet cough makes more sense to me in the sense of it's a cough that's trying to facilitate the removal of some kind of gunk that's produced by, so I mean, mucus is basically produced by our immune cells to protect itself from the bacteria. So it's like this whole process of getting the dead bacteria out of the body is kind of what that wet cough is facilitating. And so when we think about like treating a wet cough, one, we want to think about like helping to like thin out the mucus, and we actually want more of an expectorant to like kind of like get that out. The the dry cough, on the other hand, I actually don't even really. I'm trying to think of like what is the benefit of a
Not
dry.
just me, because I'm like, what is the
It's
point of this?
annoying. I know. It's like really because like yeah. I mean, there must be some kind of. I mean, obviously
Body's
there's
doing something.
well, there's obviously some kind of irritant that's bothering the lungs. I think it's much more, almost like more of like a nervous system, like spasm kind of thing, and that's what that the body's reacting. Now, the intelligence behind our body doing that, I'm not so convinced, but it's definitely doing, and that's again where like I guess classic example would be something like whooping cough, is that kind of like spastic cough, and that's where it like that's where it can potentially get dangerous.
Oh, because of that.
Yeah. Right, and that's where you would want something like how I had the that dry cough formula, because that's something where you would want it to kind of like calm down.
Interesting. And then what? Oh, sorry.
No.
If there's, I recently heard about vitamin C, high dosage of vitamin C to help. What was the word? Expectorant? Like
For
thin-
cough?
thin out the
Mucolytic.
mucus. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and then that's easy. It makes it easier for the body to
Right.
expel it.
Specifically, also, if you combine it with N-acetylcysteine.
And a what?
Oh, sorry. Oh, NAC. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yes. Oh, is
Yes.
that what it's called?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, those two combined, they would do
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another great great one to have too.
I recently heard that it's not cough and flu season, it's not going outside enough season.
That
The
like
fact that
you're
people
right.
aren't, like you were saying earlier, the environment of like having like all the dirt on your hands is actually helping you.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are cold and they stay inside and they keep their body warm all the time, then their body is working less, so their immune system goes down and they get sick more often, as opposed to like, oh, it's the cold is making somebody sick.
Right. I think, and there's like
Is
different.
that your like? What's your?
I think there's a lot of different aspects of that. I mean, one, if we are spending more inside, so if we were spending more inside with others, socializing, that can passing around the germs. Plus, also like the temperature change naturally causes more nasal drip, and we're more touching our face, so you're having more spread of germs. Yeah. And then also the lower vitamin. So I feel like that could definitely. There's a lot of different components. Yeah.
Wow. This is a different topic. I hope you don't mind me asking. But like, what's good, like, just herbs that are generally good for women to take, like, support their hormones and.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what is a good, because again that's so specific because we all have different. Yeah, I'm trying to think what would be the best. That's actually a really good question. I'm trying to think like what would be.
What does three best things?
What does spearmint do? Like what's
So spearmint is a little bit. So yeah, so there was that one study, came from Iran, that they used spearmint tea.
from where?
Iran,
Wow.
where they use spearmint tea for women with PCOS. But some people have kind of come back and they're not sure how accurate that study was.
Oh,
Well,
Right.
Iran, there's a lot of
Right.
like yeah.
So so it was like reported that like it like reduced, I think, like testosterone level. Like it definitely was like supportive of PCOS, but how accurate that is
That's so
debatable.
interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's not harmful. I mean, drink spearmint tea, but yeah.
Sorry. I thought it might like
Next to
Oh,
your
yeah,
answer.
no, it's good.
Right.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, it's like trying to think like one herb that every woman could
Yeah.
take.
But just like, good for your, balances your hormones, make sure you're.
I mean, if
Besides
anything,
this all.
I would say
What herb does your husband want you to have?
right.
That's basically.
Because
it.
at first I was like very tempted to say milk thistle.
Oh, that's so funny. Interesting.
You were thinking that too?
I was also thinking that.
So I'd say most likely milk thistle because we all need liver support. But for anybody who's on birth control, milk thistle actually can decrease its effectiveness. So I don't know if that
So
is a good idea.
where would you get like milk? You take it.
That I can. You're talking about capsules or you're talking
Hmm.
about tea? Because I used
You're
to
right.
take capsules. I can send you the link.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's pretty. I mean, milk thistle is very
What
common.
are the cons? I was actually discussing it with somebody once that I used to take milk thistle regularly. She's like, "Oh, have you looked into the cons?" And I'm like, I don't know.
No, so really the only, I mean, there's always potential of allergy. Like there's always a potential that somebody is going to react to something.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I would say the biggest con definitely is with the birth control thing, and I have seen in my practice. So
interesting.
it's definitely a,
so would it like
which actually though proves that it was a very high quality product.
right? So that's what I was gonna say.
And it
Does
works.
would it help with someone who has after effects of birth control? Like let's say someone's off of birth control, but they used to take.
Oh, well, that's a whole other story. No, again, I'm much more talking about like if you're on birth control,
Okay, so
there's the
not-
potential it could reduce the effectiveness of it, which again, if you're wanting the effects of birth control, that could be, something you didn't plan
Also,
for.
like they say, birth control is not beneficial to the woman's overall system.
I mean, there's even that's a little bit debatable. It depends, like every
Which side,
right, like there's so
or
many
what
different,
extent you need it.
yeah.
Can I go back to the coughs? Because like every single school that my kids go to, there's everyone coughing. So I'm like, all my kids. One of my kids had this like, but like anytime I did like some sort of like trying to get it out of my baby, I
Right.
try to get it out of here. There's nothing here, but it was like this like it further back, and I couldn't figure out even when he was healthy. Like I couldn't figure out how to get rid of that. Do you know by any chance? Like
Yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, like, okay, so no mucus is coming out, like, and he's not wheezing. They've listened to his lungs. So it's just like kind of this like frenetic.
yeah, like it wasn't coming from his mouth. It's just when he breathes, that's the sound that it makes. Like, where is this? Where's it coming from? I just know
Interesting.
if I take him to any doctor, they'll be like antibiotic,
Right.
which is
Right.
obviously not
Yeah.
what I want to go and do, but I couldn't figure out where. Like,
And you don't think he's stuffed up?
I could like do the like snot sucker thingy,
Mhm.
and nothing comes out.
That's interesting. I'm trying to think. And is he in discomfort?
Not particularly, but you could.
It sounds like though he's struggling to breathe through his nose though.
Yeah.
So there's got to be something back there that needs to
Right.
come out.
I just don't know where exactly and how. Like for a while I researched all these like massages.
Right. That yeah.
So I did, and I would like massage here, and I would massage
There's some
there.
kind of there's like another like I mean I don't like. What about like have you done like any kind of like compresses, like hot compresses,
Oh
or
no, I didn't try that.
there's another like there's some other kind of treat. I forget what I'm. I mean, one of the things I would think about. He's too young though. Would be doing something like nasosympatico, but it's pretty intense. Where you take mixture of this oil. You actually put Q-tips and you go all the way.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would not do that for.
Oh no. Wow. Yeah, because my mom was like, sounds like he was like, but
his breathing is, I don't know, it's weird. Can't figure out what it is. Would that be something? I think that's how I messaged
Oh
you.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, can I come visit? Is that like can I come visit you and bring him? Like,
Yeah, maybe
do I
I'll,
bring him?
yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think
'Cause
that
I remember we discussed and you're like, maybe
Right.
stay home, let's just do our thing. But I'm like, I don't know where the sound is coming from.
right, yeah. Trying to think of like what, or maybe even like, has he been to a homeopath?
Not recently.
Yeah.
No, not recently.
Yeah.